Hi.
Yeah, not go.
It's no gears, mate.
Fire it up, bros. Welcome back to the Skid Factory. This here is a 1984 Ford Falcon XE station wagon, or long roof if you're a cool kid. This belongs to my mate Wayne. We've known each other since we were about 3 years old. We used to tear around on our BMXs and set fire to things and throw rocks at hornets' nests. And we're a bit older now, but we probably still would do that if we got the chance. This car has been on the show before. We did a bit of a build review on it a while back now. Wayne's been a Ford guy for a fair while. He used to have an XD back in the olden days, and he wanted to get back into a fast car, so he found this, a bit of a barn find sort of thing, up at Mapleton's, up in the hills. Had not much paint left on it, but it was straight as a die and rust free, which is unusual for something like this. So he picked it up pretty cheap. It was only about $1,000, I think. Probably worth about 10 times that these days. And we set about fitting a different engine to it. My suggestion initially was, let's put a Barra in it. This was ages ago, 7 years ago. And he said, no, I've had 6 cylinders, I want a V8. So we had a V8, well, I had a V8 line under the bench, a Nissan VH41. Owed me next to nothing, and I knew they worked all right with turbos on them, so we set about jamming that in here. Just fitted. We put a big turbo on the front of it, had aircon, power steering, all the things that are really annoying to integrate. 4-speed auto box, stuck a diff in it out of a later model Falcon, and it made about 500 horsepower at the wheels. He tore around for a few years until one very inconvenient night, taking his youngest daughter to her formal, when one of the side feed injector O-rings split. And the long and short of when that happens is that fuel just pours into the engine at unregulated speeds. So the engine filled up with fuel, it ground to a halt at 100 k's an hour on the highway, and then it continued to fill up with fuel whenever the ignition switch was turned on. So the entire engine filled up, manifold, the whole works, right down, filled up the intercooler. It was pretty much submerged by then. So that engine was dead. We compression tested it and there was not much left of it, so obviously hydraulic locking, or it would have locked if it hadn't been going so fast. So the problem was finding another one was difficult. They used to be throwaway engine, that's why I had them, but they were no longer really available, so we discarded it and started to think about what to do instead. We actually put a post up on social media a while back saying, what would you put in it if it was yours? Got heaps of good suggestions, heaps of ridiculous suggestions. But at the end of the day, it was always going to be only one engine, so we were just taking the piss, really. So here we are. We've got to go build the engine. We're going to do a street build. We're going to mate it up to the original automatic transmission, which is a Nissan RE4 R03A. And we're going to jam it in, put a turbo on it, put a new ECU on it, make it go. And it's going to work. Let's go and build an engine at John's place and then come back and fit it. Righto, you've seen the car and you've seen what we're up against, and we've given you a pretty good idea of what we're going to do. So we'll get down into the nitty gritty. We're here with John, our very, very well qualified engine builder. He does all the stuff that we don't know how to do.
I saw that eyebrow raise just then.
You might remember John from such engine builds as the Iron Lion, Woody's MR2 thing, and various 1UZs. And John's also got a sick drag car that we're going to feature soon once I get my finger out of my butt and do something to it. So we got this engine. This is just a $200 Barra. Well, it was. What we had to do is decide whether to use an FG engine or a BF2 FG turbo engine and just add some bits to it, which is a good idea. Or the other option was to start with a $200 engine and rebuild it with good parts and that sort of thing, and see whether we could come up with a similar price but with a much better package as far as power capability and reliability and that sort of thing goes. You can make some big numbers out of FG engines, as seen by thousands of FG Falcons plus Millsy's Bedford, and they are quite reliable. But we figured with the rising cost of them that we could probably just grab an old BA engine from the wreckers and pull it apart and fill it up with good bits. So we've decided to go that way. I don't think it's going to cost exactly the same, but what we're going to end up with is going to be a lot better engine than a FG engine with some valve springs and that sort of thing. So we started with this engine, which we pulled out of my mate Brad's workshop, which someone obviously dumped an old BA there, and they were just pulling it to bits to take it to the dump. So we went and pulled the engine out of it there, brought it back here, dropped it to John's. He stripped it down. John hasn't done a Barra before, so the disassembly procedure is obviously the opposite to the assembly, so it's always a good thing. Then what was the game plan, John?
See what it needed, machine it.
And what did it need?
Pretty much everything.
Yeah, she was pretty worn out on the inside, which is pretty expected. It's a bloody ancient. It's probably done 300,000 kilometres, so I think it needed a rebore up to about...
Yeah, pretty much the core was good, the crank was okay, the block was a bit out of shape, so put some new pistons in it.
Yep, so we got pistons, rods, gasket kit with an MLS gasket, cam chains, tensioners for the cam chain, Kelford cams, valve springs, retainers and that sort of thing. Had the head just serviced. You can go a long way with a Barra head without doing anything port-wise to them, well past what we're doing. All the stuff was supplied by Golby's Parts. We basically just got on their website, went through it, and just typed Barra into search engine and all the stuff will come up. They got stuff for like factory turbo engines, just power up stuff with sort of valve springs and that sort of thing, right through to full engine rebuild stuff. We had to get pistons especially for it because this was wanting to be overboard a little bit more than the usual late model FG engine does, so I think we went 15th hour over.
15th hour,
Yep. And we've got spool con rods with what size bolts? 3/8 or 7?
3/8 bolts.
Yep. And crank's been balanced and linished, so not too big a deal. It's basic stuff for an engine rebuild, nothing as wild as say Millsy would do, but also good for like solid 800 horsepower at the wheels all day long without problems, we hope. We've got studs in the bottom end, we've got a girdle to go across here, so now we just got to put it together. John's done all the hard work, he's done all the measuring, he's done all the clearancing, and now we're just going to take the glory, as you do.
Blister.
Yep. Blister's a pretty good game plan actually.
Yeah.
Turn up when the hard work's done and take the glory.
As Al mentioned, John has already inspected and measured all of the components and has had the block machined since being disassembled. It's worth noting that although the core engine was only $200, you still have to bore, hone and deck the block, which costs roughly $1,500. Barras are a great engine, but that naturally aspirated gas motor you got from Uncle Bill isn't going to make 800 horsepower. Spending money on quality engine parts like we have from Golby's is the only way to go if you want power and reliability. The Barra has 2-bolt mains with cross-bolting into the sump for extra rigidity, but with increased power and torque comes more stress within the block. An upgraded girdle and main studs are an essential addition to increase reliability. The factory Ford windage tray is still retained. "14mm head studs are a common upgrade to combat increased cylinder pressures when making big horsepower, but in our case, some 12mm studs will be more than enough for the figures Wayne is chasing.
Hey, Wayno.
Hey, check this out.
Hey.
As the engine will be sitting for a while before it's started, soaking the lifters in oil reduces the chance from them sticking and prevents them from being damaged upon startup. Although the factory cams will make power with enough boost, they are often damaged and will need replacing anyway. A set of Kelford camshafts with matching valve springs provides extra performance, and also that's Summernat's Womp at idle.
Is the timing chain. Zippity. Well, that's the long motor, but mostly together. We have to grab a front cover and sump gasket because we ordered an FG gasket kit instead of a BA, and they've got different gaskets, but we'll sort that out. It's no big deal. Commonly available in Australia still, even though no Ford or Holden, but we'll get that sorted. The cams we talked about, but we've actually got the cam card and we haven't lost it yet, so I'm going to talk about the cams. So Wayne asked for big cams, so I went to the bottom of the thing and picked the biggest one and then went back one. So we've got 280-degree advertised for the cams. He's probably thinking, why didn't you just stay at the bottom and get me the bigger ones? But we didn't want to get too carried away. We've got 11.8mm lift on intake and exhaust. They're even, so both intake and exhaust cams are the same for everything. So Kelford grind 218B. We'll see if it sound. I think it's still going to just sound like a stock Barra and not make any lumpy noises, but
The Hoff can fix that.
Hoff will fix it with cam timing.
Is the Hoff tuning it? Oh, no, yeah. Cool,
Yeah.
mate. Yeah, cool.
It better be. He's bloody owes us some free tunes from taking the piss out of us all the time.
Yeah, well.
Jerk. So from here, we're gonna take it home, put the covers on, and then we're gonna start looking at fitting it to the car.
Hang on, before we do, John, what's your opinions on the Barra, mate? You're a Ford guy.
Yeah, not real sure. A bit too many time change or cams and stuff like that for me.
Oh, okay.
I'm a one
Too
cam
many
man.
valves? No. Simpler than a Clevo, isn't it?
I don't know about that.
I reckon this would be a nice...
It's 3 times the parts. The bottom
this
end's
would be
easy.
a nice replacement in the XE, don't you think?
Yeah, why not? I put an RB30 in it.
Oh,
Ooh. No, I don't think that'll go down well.
single cam life. What about an AU motor? Keep it forward. AU single cam.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a lot
then
of
you got
things.
12 valves then.
Yeah.
Just add another 10 PSI boost, it'll make up for it, it'll be sweet. What about a 1UZ?
Got one of them as well. 2 of them in it.
One in the back.
Yeah. What do you reckon, Delilah? He doesn't care.
Dog doesn't care.
Alright, that's all we got. We'll be back next episode with some engine fitting, I reckon.
And Wayne's got to buy some lemon squash.
Wayno will have the engine bay sorted by then. We'll be ready to bolt everything in.
Okay, boss.
Nice and clean. Thanks for watching.
What do you want? Who are you?
I want to go to the beatboxing tonight. Is beatboxing the same as kickboxing?
No, it's beat poetry.
Oh, beat poetry.
Yeah.
What about kick poetry?
Hey, Danny.
Yeah,
That's not lemon squash, mate.
it's a special flavour.
A special flavoured lemon squash.
Special flavoured lemon squash.
Dang. Ugh. The blue ones are good. I don't know about the green ones.
There's nothing wrong with the green one.
Cool. Alright, what's up next, John?
Slap it together.
Alright, that easy.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Start lubing it up and sticking it in there.
This is a PG show, mate. Come on.